I apologize for the technical issues. There always is. We all log into so many browsers, so many conference calls, video calls, etc., that inevitably there's mistakes. So Shannon, it's better late than never. Hello, how are you?
Good, and I apologize. I have very tight security settings, and so I was the problem. And so my apologies.
It's not a problem. It's just a delay, and that's okay. That's the way life happens anyway. So great to have you here. So before we get started, again, Habitat Architect is sponsored by Time Bandit. You can go check out Time Bandit at timebandit.io. There's a book, there's an app, and there's training courses. So please go to the website and learn all about it. And I am so excited to have Shannon on the episode today. Shannon and I worked together years ago, and we had a great working relationship. She's one of the dynamic marketers in certainly the Dallas-Fort Worth area, if not in the tech space in general. And so I'm really happy to have her join me. Shannon, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, though.
Yes, perfect. Thanks. So my name is Shannon Prager, and as Michael mentioned, we've worked together in a couple different capacities over the years, but I have been in tech marketing my entire career, which is now going on 27 years. In 2008, I branched off and went into consulting, and I really have stayed there since then. So I really focus on go-to-market strategy and hands-on consulting with B2B tech companies of all sizes. Lately, in the last 4 years, I've found myself in the AI space a lot with startups. So I have a lot of startup experience, but my experience really spans different stages of growth for B2B tech.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I think you specialize in all of marketing, but you have a really deep understanding of demand gen and lead generation for growing, right? The growth model and the growth engine to grow these small companies. That's right. Yeah. So let's just kind of dive into that initially. So, AI is everywhere, and it's a good thing. And there's a lot of really innovative things happening out there. But in marketing in particular, and I like some of the things AI is doing for us in marketing, but it can also get off the rails pretty quickly. And could you just tell us some of those pitfalls of using relying on AI too much in kind of B2B marketing?
Yeah, I think that we're in such an experiment mode still of trying to figure out where to use it and how to use it. And then you have different skill levels coming in, using it, with different skill levels. So I think what I'm scared about, or what I'm watching a lot lately, is the protection of the brand, because you've got people going off rogue and doing things that aren't necessarily being watched or governed by the people that care about the brand. So I think that there's going to be a lot of focus on that space, like especially for CMOs and marketing heads over the next few years. I think that it is absolutely accelerating what great marketers can do, almost like an assistant. And, I'm using it a lot in content strategy, persona research, message testing. But again, I view it more as an assistant. I definitely have to know where I want to point it in order to get the quality of content out of it that I want.
Yeah, so that's a great segue into a question I wanted to ask you, because I, as a consumer, or particularly in business tech, I am at the back end of a lot of really bad marketing. I get so many emails that are I'm not even in their ICP, their ideal customer profile, or they look like they've scraped something off LinkedIn and tried to personalize it, if you will, and you just see so much bad of it. Where is that going off the rails? Is it just the strategy? Is it just, how do you get your handle around that if you were to work for a company that had that going on?
Right. I think that that's actually just going on generally, and it has more to do with the skill of the people using the AI than the AI itself. If you put bad prompts in, you're going to get bad prompts out. So, I think a good strategist, or somebody that understands the ICP deeply, is going to have a very different output of a messaging, strategy than somebody that's just saying, write an email with this, with this call to action and these features. And so a young marketer is going to approach it that way, and a skilled marketer is not. So I think that there's a lot, in just experience and skill that has to be taught to the marketer.
Yeah.
But it is definitely like, I see it all the time too. And I'm like, oh, that was written with this tool. Oh, that was written with this tool. It feels very generic. It feels very unpersonalized. And it's, I don't even, the second I can tell it's generated from something like that, I delete.
Yeah.
It doesn't keep
Yeah.
attention long either. And I know what, I'm not an anomaly in this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and marketing automation in general has allowed, smaller teams to increase the volume of the outputs, I think is maybe the way to say that. And I think back to old cartoons or in movies where they have this manufacturing line, and then one thing goes off and everything just piles up, but it's still, the machine is still going and they're still pushing things out, right? And so I mean, I guess if it, maybe I boil that down to a question, quantity versus quality. I mean, it seems to me in marketing, quality is vastly more important.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that there are probably some scenarios where, like, actually, there's an analogy that I use with clients sometimes. AI without strategy is like delivering fast food. I mean, you don't really care about quality. It's a matter of being fast and being to market, in the quickest amount of time. There are markets for McDonald's. There are markets for Jack in the Box. In B2B tech marketing, that's not what people are ordering. They're ordering like a more custom, personalized solution. So it's important to make sure that you're using AI to support that, and not the fast food, mentality. I mean, I think that the brand has got a bigger role with AI in the mix now, the owner of the brand, than they've had in a while, because you do want to make sure that you're keeping the individuals representing the brand, like, okay, we're delivering fast food or we're not. We're delivering a custom, solution or we're not. It's very important that everybody's really teed into the messaging strategy.
So I know I just jumped in bashing AI, and I didn't mean to, because I agree with you. I think AI is incredibly a fascinating opportunity for many worlds, and especially marketing. But so could you walk us through maybe an example of where AI is delivering more value or delivering something that unique?
Gosh, so many areas. Well, okay, I'll give you a couple of different examples. I still have a service that I provide, which is go-to-market research. And it's usually when companies at an inflection point. So they're either trying to grow because stagnant sales in an existing market, and they're looking for, a way to expand, or they're trying to enter a new market, or it's a startup and they're trying to figure out what market they're in. So each one of those kind of takes you down the same process of market research. And it used to take me 90 days to go through a full go-to-market research process. I can do that in a week now with AI. So that's a huge cost savings. Now, granted, I might be cutting some corners, and doing quantitative or qualitative research in a slightly different way, but I could do it in a week if I needed to. The other thing, as a practitioner, I think that you're going to find marketers that are going to be touching more tools, less people underneath them to do it. But I can create, like last week for a startup, I created 3 landing pages going after a very targeted persona and market by myself using chat and Gamma. So in a week, and that would have taken weeks at a larger company just because of the order of chain of approvals and stuff. So it's definitely speeding things up. I view it a bit more, as an assistant than a strategy tool. Strategy, it's a tool to help strategy, but it's not a strategy itself.
Yeah, exactly. And those are great examples. The market research thing is it can be huge, because there's just so much advantage into knowing what target you're going after, as opposed to just kind of just trying it out. So let's kind of talk about, because I when we worked together, I was on the sales end of things and you were on the marketing side. And we all know, and maybe we don't always talk about it publicly, but we all know there's always this kind of friction between sales and marketing, and its alignment, or what have you. And it's an odd thing, because the goals are the same, right? To grow the business. When the business is growing, everybody's better off for it. So number one, I guess the question about alignment is, how would you approach if you were hired by a company and you feel that the salespeople are saying we don't get anything out of marketing, and marketing saying we're trying a lot of things. Where do you begin?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the size of the company, because the alignment complexity is slightly different, based on size. But let's just take like a mid-sized company. They're usually at that point, like in a Series A or B, they've got a go-to-market rhythm and motion down. They've got the foundation built. They know their messaging. They know their targeting, and they're really like for the first time trying to get marketing and sales to work together. So it's not that it's been broken. It's actually that it's forming for the first time, and you're kind of trying to teach them the rules of handoff and like who has ownership over what part of the lead. So I think it's always important to have those conversations together, because it is not one owner. I mean, especially now in the digital age, the research is being done well before you know it. They're coming and they're not wanting to talk to a sales rep until they're pretty far down the decision path. And so marketing is coming in much earlier, staying much later. And then once they're a customer, you have to worry about renewal in 12 more months. So it's like, the teams that do really well are thinking holistically across the customer journey and not creating plans in silos. They're creating them together, and then they're sharing the metrics, from when they first learn about you until they renew. Yeah.
And how do you, I'll call it sales ADHD, that, there's always a shinier thing. Oh, we need to do that, or we need to try this, or we need to be at this trade show, or this market, or whatever. I mean, how as a go-to-market leader do you keep everybody on the bus, so to speak?
It really starts with getting everybody aligned to the goal. So, you always have to start with the end in mind. So what does success look like? It's $12 million from what type of company? From what are they buying? How much are they buying? Is there an upsell path? Like, those questions need to be figured out first, and then the plans created around it. And so when those are clear, people aren't coming in and saying, I want to go to a conference that's outside of the goal, because the goal is this. So it becomes like a checkpoint for everybody. Like, does it support this? Yes or no? And then the conversations can go from there. Now, I will say that AI is allowing more testing of those things. So I think that marketing is able to support the ADHD a little bit more than they have been able to in the past, because it's easier to spin up content, landing pages, and tactics, and do some testing. But at the end of the day, you want to stay like grounded, to the goal. And if the goal includes testing new markets, I think that AI is really helping in that area.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. It's interesting, because I was wondering if AI is giving marketing leaders a headache, because the reality is now everybody that has a computer can become a marketing expert just by asking AI questions. And I'm not suggesting they are AI experts, but they get this information. They go, oh, well, this must be smart. And then they go to marketing and say, here's an idea for you. And here's an idea for you. I mean, how do you kind of manage that chaos? It sounds like you're grounded to the goals, but in a world with AI, everybody's a marketer, and everybody's a doctor, and everybody's a salesperson, et cetera. So.
Yeah, and I think that this is where the brand chaos fear comes into the mix, because everybody is. So I think that the playbook and the marketing, like rules of engagement, become even more important with AI in the mix. To be honest, I'm not running into this fatigue of feeling like I'm being told to try too many things. I think we're too new into the market for me to feel that fatigue yet. I'm still more testing and learning and listening to new ideas. But I do think that I see that problem becoming bigger and bigger as more people get into and start using AI. So I think the focus is going to need to be very clear, from the top down.
Yeah. And so what about the world of, I mean, we all have these dystopian kind of views, or maybe we were told in movies that that's how it's going to be when AI runs the place. It's the Matrix, and no one really has a place in it. It's the AI that's the thing. Where do you think in marketing, things like events and personalized engagement, where do you think that fits in? I personally think events are a very important aspect of it, because that's where you meet people, and I guess I'm using a sales adage that people buy from people. But I mean, where do you think AI is going to influence that or not influence it?
Well, I think that, I've read over the last year, I mean, I know it's been going up since COVID, but I heard earlier this year that events are really making a comeback. I mean, people are missing the networking. There's also there's a lot to learn right now in all the markets, because AI has been so disruptive and it's changing all the technology. And so I think that that's part of the resurgence around events. I think that I don't think events are going away. I think that personal connections in certain sales are extremely important, and events are really oftentimes the only way to do that. I think, right now I'm sure that there's some AI event tools. I'm probably not as privy to all of them, but to me, I view like AI's use in post-event and pre-event as an interesting strategy. But I don't know if I have strong opinions of like how AI itself is going to change events, other than, I don't know. Honestly, it's an interesting question.
Yeah. Well, on the notion of alignment, you mentioned that you could do a market research project in a week, or roughly a week. And do you see where AI has an ability to really align that what could have been misalignment, that core goal? You said you've got to have your true north that you're all headed to. Can AI play a role there?
Yeah, definitely. So think of like a scientist, I guess, and then a lab assistant. So the AI is not the brain of the scientist. I mean, they're not going to figure the solution out it's not going to figure it out by itself. But the scientist working with a very smart lab assistant that has access to data like all over the world across every ICP or persona you could ever imagine, and understands what their pains are and the language that they use. Like all of a sudden it's about the queries that you're using for AI to formulate your strategy. So, like I've encouraged our sales teams to use the tools like Gong and analyze sales calls to pick up patterns. I have used AI myself to like get language that certain personas are using as they explain certain problems. Oftentimes I'm, using AI to start with the problem, trying to kind of get in their head, like, what do they feel? Why is it stressful? What does it cost them? How do they have to report up? And then I get those answers and use it to formulate my strategy. So I'm just using it as an assistant, but it's an assistant on speed.
Yeah, that's great. And I didn't mean to make this conversation about AI, but I do have one
I think
question.
A lot of people have questions.
Yeah, I do have one question now. You get your message, you get your go-to-market plays ready, and I want to ask you after that, just in a minute, about what is your suggestions. But I'm curious about search, because you said that buyers want to do more research before they talk to a salesperson. They want to do more research because there's a lot of more competition out there, maybe in the field that they're in. So what do you think about search and getting that message out there? Because I personally, I see my use of Google search now minimized quite a lot. So how does a company prepare for that shift?
Yeah, really it's moving away from like Google, although I think, you're hearing that Google is making some plays here. So I don't know that they're going to give up on the market that easily, but you really have to focus on AI enabled search things right now. So for example, if I'm writing a blog on a thought leadership topic, I'm not asking it to make it SEO enabled. I'm asking it to be AI SEO enabled. It's the same rhythm, but it's a different channel. So, I think it's an adjustment of maybe some of the techniques that you're using to optimize content, but the foundations of the optimization of the content are the same. It's just using a different tool or a different technology.
Yeah, got it. And I didn't mean to suggest that Google's going away. I just meant my use of going to the search
No,
bar.
mine too. Yeah, I
Yeah,
spend all
yeah,
my time in chat these days. It's
yeah,
rare that
yeah,
I'm doing stuff in Google,
yeah,
and a lot of brands are seeing the drop in SEO traffic, which is why they're shifting over to the
yeah,
AI
yeah.
enabled traffic.
Gotcha. So, all right, we're talking about go-to-market strategies. If you were to just give a high level, these are the must-haves before you go to market on a new product. Let's just keep it that simple. New product. What are the must-haves before you can actually really launch with success and sustainable success, I should say?
Yeah. So I kind of ground them in 3 F's. So the demand gen F3 engine. So foundational is ICP, messaging, targeting, goals. If those are not clear, the next thing that you're going to do is going to be really bad and also not clear. And that's going to be the fuel. So like putting fire on it and then letting it go, which is really your campaign engine, your coordination of top, of go-to-market strategies, whether it oftentimes should involve marketing, sales, customer success. And then, sometimes there's an account renewal function, but planning those together so it's a cohesive fuel. And then feedback, like if you're not watching what's not working and what is working, you never really have the capacity to go and change and optimize. So foundation, fuel, feedback. Those are the 3 most important pillars.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's perfect. And what I know AI can be an assistant on this, but where would you see the red flags, if you will? If you're thinking about your foundation, then you're thinking about your fuel, and you're thinking about your I've already forgot the last F. Yeah.
Feedback.
So if you're looking at your marketing capabilities, without this, you need to hire somebody else, right? Even if it's a consultant or if it's an agency or whatever. How do you spot where your weak spots
Where
are?
the issues are.
Yeah.
So I always start at the foundation because usually, it's almost like checking a house. Like if the house is wobbly, somebody's complaining about the house, you're going to look at the foundation first, and the foundation is targeting, goal alignment, and messaging. If those aren't the issues, then it becomes about execution, which is the next layer in the fuel. So I'm looking at coordination across campaign planning, how they're leveraging shared messaging, or if they're not leveraging shared messaging, governance policies that are helping the teams work closer together. And if that is not the issue, which it usually is one of those issues, then I'm looking at like how are you game playing or game filming your work, and how are you determining what's moving the needle and what's not, which is in the feedback loop. So I kind of move from top to down, but it's usually in the first 2.
And is it a I mean, especially for a small to mid-sized company that's on a growth path, I mean, usually you don't have all of that capability in-house, right?
No, definitely not. Although, with AI and stuff, I think that people are trying to figure out how to use the tools, and external or internal help a bit more. But oftentimes a young company may bring and outsource parts of that. Just depends on how they're scaling.
Yep. Okay. So we mentioned something earlier, and I realized we didn't explain it, but I think it's worth mentioning because you're so good at this that call it personas or ICP. I mean, you were doing a lot of this in your business from the first time I met you. So let's talk about that a minute. What is an ICP, and what's a good one and what's a bad one, maybe? Or maybe we start with the bad one.
Yeah. So an ICP is an ideal customer profile. That's the acronym. And from ICPs, I'll give you an example coming off of a startup that I just built this for. Prior to me coming in, they were trying to scale, and they had a rough market that they thought they were in, but they were just taking that market and going after and throwing that message to anybody that could listen. So they were looking at titles. I'm going to go in and I'm going to sell ASPM to any title that's going to buy ASPM. And it was what we call spray and pray in marketing. And that's very common for startups, like especially new ones that are right out of product development. So I come in and you don't have all the resources that you're going to have later as you scale. You probably have very little budget. You can't be everything to everybody, and you definitely can't be it well. So take your resources and your people in mind and focus on what you do best, like lowest hanging fruit, because you need the quickest entry and lowest barrier to get in. So often the times that's taking us to like, where are you going to be the strongest? And in this case, we flipped their market a bit. We honed in on very specific people that were already in the business of doing what they did, and we made their lives easier. And we basically went from a spray and pray, fishing in the ocean kind of thing, to going into 3 small ponds and fishing there. And we had that was first of all, we could see the impact of it, through the testing. And it was allowing us to do a lot more with less.
I think that's a great analogy, because the 3 ponds, they may be different types of fish in which you're going to use a different type of bait or lure or whatever you want to refer to, right? And you can really focus in on that based on the ICP. So we covered a lot of ground. I'm just curious, is there, as a young company, or even a company that feels like they stalled, you mentioned earlier that, there's sometimes companies are going well and then it just kind of stops or slows down, I should say. So what would your advice be to those CEOs out there that are thinking, okay, something's stuck. I either can't get this startup going the way I think it should, or we were doing all right and then it stopped. I mean, what your just core advice to that CEO to say, look here?
Really, it's going to be look at the foundation. And that's going to be, is your target really the right target for you right now? Do you have the right alignment and messaging in place? And is that being shared across the teams? And are you differentiated enough in the market? And so the problem is usually in one of those little crevices. Sometimes it's all of them, but it's those are the places to look. Like those are any skilled marketers can go right there.
I think that's a great point, because the differentiation itself is why buyers are spending so much time doing research before they want to talk to anybody. Because if you asked 5 vendors in a certain categories to come present to you, chances are there's going to be 5 very similar presentations, if not almost identical presentations about capabilities and stuff like that. And it's that next differentiation layer that I don't think comes out a lot. Which is why the ponds become important, because all of a sudden now your messaging is geared around something very specific. So you're not sounding as generic to them. You're sounding like more of a specialist in their area. So it helps you stand out, and it helps you, it builds trust, because they trust that you know their business more than the competition, because you're so tailored to what they're doing. Okay. And last kind of and last question about kind of the marketing engine, because I mean, where should the executives focus? Not a CMO or, product marketers, et cetera. I know they've got more KPIs they need to manage to, but as an executive team, where should they look to say this is working, or it's time to change? Because there's so many dashboards. When I look at all of the tech out there, the Apollos and the CRMs and all of those systems have their own dashboards. So as an executive, where do you look to get to keep a tab on it, but also to know when there is a temperature change that you need to be aware of?
Yeah. So assuming that the executive team is aligned on the most important KPIs for the business, those are going to be revenue, customer churn, et cetera. And so, and not everybody is aligned here. And this is an important thing to align on, because if you don't have this, you don't really have one place to check, and you're depending on all the individual siloed departments to roll up data that's not really connected to the most important ones. But usually the executive team's always going to care about revenue, and they're going to care about revenue over certain periods of time. So a big indicator that things are not working is when the revenue is not trending the way that they thought it was going to trend. And then it forces, the leaders to kind of look a layer down.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about you and marketing. So you have a passion for marketing, obviously. If you were going to go tell yourself, a young Shannon, one lesson that you hope that they would learn faster than you did, what would that be?
Oh, good question. So I do have a young Shannon, my daughter, Avery, who's going to be graduating from college next year. So I'll tell you what I am telling her. I think experience prior to the work world is very important right now. There's a lot of competition, I think, out there, and being able to set yourself apart from competition is tough. So be working on it early. Embrace AI. Anything that you can do to get exposure to AI, working with AI, using new tools, I think is very important. I know that colleges are now starting to teach like AI marketing courses on how to do prompting. So, I mean, if they're doing it at the college level, you can tell how important it's going to be to the market. Something that I mean, you know me, I'm a big question asker, but I just always encourage people, don't be afraid to ask questions. And I never was, and I think it's helped me in my career. Keeps me personable, keeps me humble, but I'm just not scared I'm not scared to not know something, and I'm not scared to ask questions. And so I think that's important just in life.
That's a great element, because sometimes the explanation of the answer is more enlightening than if you would have thought you'd known it anyway, right? So
yeah, exactly. You learn. Yes, I mean, I feel like when I go in open-minded, I learn so much more than
Okay, so let's a few more, since we are the habit architect and the habits are the kind of thing. What is a non-negotiable habit for you on a daily or weekly basis as a marketer, and then as a human?
Yes. So we were talking a little bit about Stagen yesterday. I learned this through Stagen, and I had a coach through Stagen who I adore, and her initials were RPM. So I call this my Friday RPM ritual. And it is to basically go through and reflect on the week, like what was done well, what wasn't done well, what do I need to dig in further, plan. I really like to do, and I've tried different like rhythms and methods of this. For me, Friday works best, but I like to do my plan for the week ahead on Friday while everything's fresh in my mind. And then I can come into Monday and I'm not scrambling to figure out where I left off. And then RPM was the sorry, I forgot what the M stood for, but it's looking back and trying something new, like mindfulness, like trying a new thing, looking at a new competitor, like being open to learning something new in the market. And sometimes for me, that's just even like looking at an email campaign that I liked from somebody that came through in the week and like trying to figure out what elements. It's not always like this deep research, but it's just something that you marked through the week that you wanted to go back and study.
Yeah. Oh, I got you. Yeah. Excellent. Well, Shannon, thank you so much. If somebody wanted, I'm sorry, say it again.
Sorry. I said, I like that, the last one, because it keeps you fresh.
Yeah, exactly. And being open to ideas is, I think it's always fun when I see something that catches my attention. I'm like, well, and then you go back and look at it. Why did that catch my attention? Because it was probably innovative or different or whatever the case was. So yeah. So very good. Well, thank you so much for joining. Sorry, we had some technical difficulties. But before we go, if somebody wanted to pick up a conversation with you, Shannon, how would they best find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Shannon Prager, Prager. I also have a website, although I really function more as an individual consultant right now, but the website is leaditmarketing.com. So yeah. Excellent.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for all the insights. I know we bounced around the topic wise a little bit, but that's the good thing and the bad thing about AI. It's disrupting things. The bad thing is it's keeping all of us on our toes, but that's a good thing too, I think, at the end of the day. So thank you so much for your time. Yeah, thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions for Shannon, drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure that she gets them, and we'll get those answers to you as well. So Shannon, thank you so much. And for everybody else, do you let us know if you like us on or follow us on your podcast channel. That would be great. And we'll see you next time.